Where's my food?
Whether due to the pandemic or simply because the world lost interest, there's no telling which brands will or won't be on the shelves. Here are 10 foods that basically disappeared in 2020. Odwalla smoothies.
Oh man, not the smoothie rant.
Undoubtedly, smoothies are one of the easiest things to make at home. If you've got a blender or food processor, all you need to do is throw a bunch of things inside and press a button. That being said, not everyone has access to blenders and food processors, which means that bottled smoothies are the perfect alternative to turn to. For those who don't have the time or resources to make their own smoothies, Odwalla Smoothies was a relatively healthy treat to pick up while you were on the go. But that might not be the case for long, because it looks like the parent company, Coca-Cola, is discontinuing this sweet treat. The reason? Well, because it was sweet.
Sweet tooth.
On average, these beverages contained somewhere between 30 to 50 grams of sugar. Coca-Cola's attempt to put out a zero-sugar version of Odwalla didn't seem to help matters, and sales continued to plummet. The company couldn't figure out a way to make it cost-effective, and so it was taken off of shelves for good.
So long, partner.
Oat milk.
Morning, dear. I made your favorite breakfast.
Oat milk, a perfect addition to smoothies and cereals for people who don't want to consume dairy products. But this year, things have taken an extra turn. Because of the pandemic, people want to make sure that their pantries are full. While people started with flour, beans, and toilet paper, they eventually got bored of stocking up on those plain, everyday items. So they turned to oat milk. Early on in the year, sales for the non-dairy beverage skyrocketed as people throughout the United States and beyond prepared to shelter in place for an unknown period of time. Unfortunately, when everyone's taking as much as they can, it leaves others without anything at all.
Got any bread? No! I'm exceedingly poor.
There have been reports that the shortage of oat milk was still ongoing in various markets in the spring. The rise of oat milk in coffee shops as a non-dairy alternative undoubtedly led many newly minted home baristas to seek it out as they tried to recreate their favorite coffee shop favorites with copycat recipes.
Do that.
What?
Meat.
Sinus is packed with meat.
Before you worry, it's clear now that meat has made a comeback at the grocery store and local butcher shops. But for a few months of 2020, some people were disappointed to find that their favorite cuts of meat were nowhere to be found. This is because meat supply chains were heavily impacted by the pandemic. Workers in meatpacking plants, often crammed together in tight quarters, were disproportionately infected, leading to numerous plant closures. This, in turn, created a bottleneck in the supply chain where the remaining plants that were open simply couldn't process meat fast enough. Meanwhile, farmers had to make some tough decisions about whether or not they could keep feeding their animals. If they continued to be fed, they could grow too large to go through most processing plants. This meant that for everyday consumers, meat was hard to come by, which resulted in higher prices. Luckily, meat has returned to the grocery stores, and in some cases, there's even been an overproduction. So for those carnivores who were deprived of meat, it's your lucky day.
Duke, let's eat! Oh, yes!
Canned soup.
Stop that soup! No!
In these stressful times, who couldn't go for a nice bowl of warm soup? It's the best comfort food, hands down, and boy oh boy do we need comforting. Well, soup is fun and dandy, but some people just don't have the time to make it from scratch. This is probably why so many people turned to canned soup. Quick and easy, all you got to do is heat it up and you're done. But as the pandemic raged on, that option became a little more difficult because the manufacturers of canned soup became overwhelmed. There were reports that shortages of canned soup were still happening in the fall.
What?
What? What?
General Mills, which makes Progresso soup, stated that it hadn't yet caught up to demand for the canned stuff. That same situation rings true over at the Campbell Soup Company, which has also struggled to keep up with the amount of soup consumers have been packing into their shopping carts. Soup manufacturers are still struggling to keep up with the demand, so canned soup may be harder to come by than you want it to be.
It's a hard knock life.
Costco sheet cake.
Maybe we could make a cake with your face on it.
Anyone who's tried Costco sheet cake has probably fallen in love with it immediately. Whether you had it at a friend's birthday party or your own, it never fails to please. This delicious miracle tastes good no matter what flavor you get. And for parents looking for a quick and easy way to make their kid's birthday extra special, it's perfect. Plus, the fact that it's less than $20 makes it hard to say no. Unfortunately, it looks like these sheet cakes are going to be gone for a while. This isn't because Costco is no longer able to make them, but because of the pandemic. Costco decided to cut back service in a few crucial areas to limit employee contact, and so the sheet cake had to go.
No, never!
That is all understandable, but it's hard to imagine a birthday party without it. But there's still good news. By July, some customers were reporting that these beloved cakes were coming back. Now, that's no guarantee that you'll find the same near you. As Costco told reporters, the sheet cake was still shuttered for the time being. For now, let's simply say that this sign is enough for us to believe that this sheet cake shortage is not forever.
Stop eating my cake!
Frozen pizza.
I want everyone's assurance that we will enjoy this pizza responsibly.
This one is pretty self-explanatory. While stuck inside under these circumstances, it can be hard to get the motivation to do, well, anything really. People are tired, and tired people need pizza. So it's not surprising that frozen pizzas are flying off the shelves of grocery stores all over the country. Cheap, easy to make, and yummy to eat, frozen pizzas are perfect for hungry people who are lacking the energy or resources to do it themselves. And though there's a lot of debate over the healthiness of frozen pizzas, as well as the quality, that doesn't mean that it isn't convenient. Plus, let's be real, some frozen pizzas are actually really good.
What are you talking about? Oh, this is amazing.
That is, if you can find one in your local grocery store. In April, it was reported that frozen pizzas had become something of a rarity despite dramatically increased production nationwide. A 4-week measure of the situation from late March into early April showed that Americans bought a whopping $270 million worth of frozen pizzas in that time. That's a lot of pizza. To those customers who got their hands on one of those elusive frozen pizzas, we're jealous, but glad you got a nice meal.
Oh, my human belly.
Flour.
I brought you flowers.
Stuck at home during the pandemic, many people turned to their kitchens to seek comfort or simply to develop new skills. A single glance at TikTok or Pinterest shows you just how many people have taken up baking bread and all the creativity that they've been putting into it. However, all of that baking meant that for the first few months of the pandemic, flour was nearly impossible to find. While this was frustrating for people who simply wanted to try out trends like frog bread, there was actually a silver lining for small flour mills like King Arthur Flour. The relatively small flour milling company has been in continuous business since 1790 and was already known for its high-quality goods.
It's very expensive.
In early 2020, they experienced an upswing in orders so massive that their sales rose more than 2,000%. This period was so busy that, for a time, it was difficult for them to fulfill orders, as it was for many other flour producers and distributors throughout the country. So King Arthur and other companies like it have had to up their production and distribution network game. It's times like these where we're glad the market shifts to accommodate the needs of the people, because now we can go back to doing what's important.
It's about time.
Yeast. As we mentioned before, being holed up at home during the pandemic saw many people turn to their hobbies, new and old. Coupled with the initial panic buying at the beginning of the pandemic, people were concerned about how to feed their families. So they took up baking. It's time-consuming, fun, and results in a tasty end product. Who wouldn't want to learn how to do it? Apparently, a lot of people had the same idea. Because of this uptick in new bakers, key baking ingredients started disappearing from grocery store shelves, leaving disconcertingly empty spots in their wake.
And it's gone.
We already talked about how flour was in low supply, but bread takes more than flour. You also need yeast, the microscopic fungi that helps your dough rise. However, much like flour, yeast has also been disappearing at alarming rates. Not only has the increased need for yeast made manufacturers struggle to keep up, but there's also been shortages of the packaging, which has production even more behind. Well, you could always grow your own bread starter, but that takes extra time and involves constantly babysitting your starter. If that's not your style, however, you may have to wait and enjoy some flatbread in the meantime.
You have to show patience.
Dunkaroos.
I'm sorry, Steven. I guess they stopped making them.
If you grew up in the 1990s to the late 2000s, you'll remember Dunkaroos. For those who aren't familiar or those who simply didn't have much of a sweet tooth during those times, Dunkaroos were two snacks in one. On one side, you had the cookies. On the other side, you had the frosting. And when you dipped the cookies in the frosting, well, it was absolutely magical. If you had one of these bad boys in your lunchboxes, you were royalty. Unfortunately, even though Dunkaroos gave many people good memories, the company can't be held up by nostalgia alone. Much like childhood, Dunkaroos slowly faded away.
Don't forget me.
Many of its fans grew up and lost their sweet tooth or simply realized how unhealthy they really were. Parents became more health conscious, and as a result, there was a decline in sales. Sadly, General Mills, the manufacturer of Dunkaroos, closed up the Dunkaroo program in 2012. But in the summer of 2020, it was announced that these nostalgic treats would be making a comeback. The only problem was that they didn't. Many Twitter users complained that despite the promises made, no one could find Dunkaroos at their local stores. We can't know for sure what happened, but if we had to guess, we'd probably say that it has something to do with the fact that General Mills was one of the many companies that were struggling amidst the pandemic. Oh well, we can always still hope.
It is the only thing stronger than fear.
Craft beer.
Hey, Johnny, how about a beer, huh?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
While there wasn't an overall alcohol shortage this year, there was a certain subclass that was hit pretty hard during the pandemic. We're talking, of course, about craft beers. Craft brewers are defined as small, independent, and traditional, and they're in danger. Because many craft brewers are small local businesses, they don't have the same financial resources as other, bigger companies. That's why you might have noticed that some of your favorite craft beers aren't on store shelves anymore. It's been reported that among the breweries polled, more than 60% had to throttle back their production, while just under 30% had to stop making beer entirely.
What kind of beer?
The Brewers Association echoed these findings, saying that their members have seen a precipitous drop in sales over the past year. Even if you've tried to buy beer from other retailers other than the brewery, chances are good that you've seen fewer brews from local makers. Unfortunately, this means that many have already stopped the production of their craft beers, while others may be next in line. If you have a favorite local brewery, now may be a good time to find ways to support that business. Otherwise, it may not survive.
That's impossible!
We've got more. Just tap or click on one of our other great videos. Click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell.